said I oppose fracking. Show the tape. Put it on your website. Put it on the website.
Live from Clark Studios in Rochester, New York. Broadcasting around the world. You're listening to You Made It Political, where the voice of the keyboard warrior is finally heard and the arguments presented are put to the political test. And now, here's your host, Matt Clark.
Governor Andrew Cuomo from New York State has been a complete and utter disaster, yet the liberals keep voting him in. Why? He's bankrupted New York State, he's destroyed small business, he's negligently killed thousands of elderly residents, and is now getting busted for underreporting the numbers by 50%. And the only reason we know this is because it took the Attorney General to finally force the real numbers out of Cuomo. Yet the liberal media continue to defend this guy. I'm starting to seriously question the intelligence of the left at this point. I mean, let's be honest. They have made it very clear that they don't vote politicians based on policy and accomplishments. They vote based on regurgitated, brainwashed propaganda that the local media is forced to spoon feed them because CNN and Chris Cuomo told them if they don't listen to them, they're going to have their heads. I mean, how could you possibly vote for a man that has not done a single good thing for New York State? A man who is always blaming everyone else for his own mistakes. A man who is so full of himself that he actually had the guts to write a book on COVID leadership. Even though New York State has the highest COVID death rate in the country, despite the strictest lockdown measures. He is anything but a pandemic godsend. He has literally failed on all spectrums of leadership. And it's about time New Yorkers, both Republicans and Democrats, see him for who he really is. Let's start today's show with why we're suddenly hearing about the underreporting of COVID nursing home related deaths. So it all started with the Attorney General. I mean, God forbid Cuomo and his administration take it upon themselves to tell the truth. So the Attorney General had to literally beat it out of them. A damning Attorney General's report showed that Governor Andrew Cuomo and other officials downplayed the deadly impact of COVID-19. Funny that, how they're downplaying it all of a sudden. The Democrats and the local left-wing media have been doing nothing but downplaying COVID from the very beginning. If anything, the fear-mongering have been all-time highs. So it's interesting that they decided to downplay this issue. So they downplayed the deadly impact of COVID-19 on New York's nursing homes. Finally led the state's embattled health commissioner on Thursday to reveal the total number of resident fatalities. So we're all of a sudden learning that the total fatalities for nursing home deaths, these same deaths that Governor Cuomo horrifically screwed up on and sent all of the elderly to nursing homes from hospitals to essentially die. So they underreported the deaths by nearly 50%. The Attorney General got involved. They did their own investigation and they forced the health commissioner on Thursday to reveal the total number. They knew they weren't reporting accurate numbers and they said, this is wrong. You need to start reporting real numbers. So they came out with it. We realized that Governor Cuomo and his administration have reported fraudulent numbers. Yet, so many Democrats in New York State, they know this. They know that this man continues to screw up. We're now asking our federal government for $15 billion bailout because Cuomo thought he was making the right decisions. He thought he was doing the state good. He thought he was being a noble hero by shutting our businesses down, by locking us down, by colluding with the teachers' unions to say, let's keep the kids out of school so I can look good. Well, it's all backfired on him now. The whole thing's backfired, and he doesn't even know if he's going to get the bailout from Biden, $15 billion. It's to the point right now where he's threatening to sue the federal government if he doesn't get his precious bailout. So everybody who continues to vote for this guy, you pay for what you get. New York's now broke. And businesses and lives have been destroyed. Our elderly have been killed negligently and wrongfully. And now lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit is now being thrown against Cuomo. At some point, this man needs to face the music. Elise Stefanik, Congresswoman in New York State, is now opening an investigation towards him. The right-wing media is throwing everything they have at this man. The local media are not going to be able to cover for him anymore, and it's a music to my ears to finally know that something is going to be done. And shame on all of you who actually think he is the answer to New York State. Because if you look at his rap sheet at this point, it's no surprise that he hasn't really done much good of anything. So let's hope we're finally going to wake up and see Governor Cuomo for who he really is. So a Danny Attorney General's report has showed that the numbers have been unreported. New York nursing home deaths topped 12,000. Cuomo health chief finally reveals. Let's see what the keyboard warriors have to say about the insanity and the corruption and the continued lies from the Cuomo administration. After all, this show is all about you guys, the American people, and what you think about these situations. Dan says you should go to jail, yet you're still our governor. Jail time, you arrogant SOB. People are angry. They're furious. A lot of these people, their parents, their grandparents, their in-laws, they died as a result for this negligence. They died in these nursing homes. Lisa says, and he wrote a book, and you all gave him an award for all he did. Wow. Be proud. He lied to you, New Yorkers, and blamed Trump and his administration. Even when Trump had a hospital ship come to help out. Do you remember that? Cuomo said, hey, come on, government, help me out here. We're drowning here. Where are the ventilators? And Trump said, listen, dude, you're the governor of New York State. Figure it out. Like, get a grip. You talk about how great you are. You praise yourself on a constant basis. You're a grown man. I'm sure you can figure this mess out. Okay, so finally, after he couldn't figure it out, and Trump was the one who really got the ventilators situated in the end, Trump sends a ship, a big old hospital ship to come help. But remember who refused that help? Governor Cuomo. He refused help when the ship arrived. The hate for one person, the hate he had for Trump, is what bankrupted New York State. He couldn't swallow his pride, admit he needed help, regardless of his hatred towards Trump, but he put that emotion ahead of his constituents. And here we all are, completely bankrupt. Now he isn't here to blame. Trump's no longer here to blame. And all the truths are spewing out. I listened to the press briefing this morning, which was an absolute embarrassment. And lo and behold, Cuomo decided to blame everybody but himself. He did not take action for a single thing. Forget the fact that he underreported by 50%, although it's a very serious crime that he and his administration has committed. But put that aside for just a second. Let's talk about everything else that he royally screwed up on. Because that is what everybody is so frustrated and fed up with. This is just the straw that finally broke the camel's back. Let's see what else the American people have to say about the insanity and the corruption that Governor Cuomo and his cronies continue to get away with up until now. Cuomo will be running for office again in 2022. If you New Yorkers vote him in again, you deserve this guy that was responsible for the deaths of thousands. Something is seriously wrong with you if you vote for him. The same with your stupid BLM Mayor de Blasio, who, by the way, is now throwing Cuomo under the bus and is calling for his head as well. Funny that, how they all of a sudden start turning on each other and eating their own when the truth really comes out. And Jerry is so right. New York, listen, we deserve what we get if we continue to reelect this man. The rest of the country sees it. Why doesn't New York see it? Everybody sees it. This is the reason he's not even being considered for Biden as Attorney General. They dropped him a long time ago when they realized he was an impeachment risk. Now, Biden did not say that specifically, but what Biden did say is he shortlisted attorney generals because they were not a whole list of stuff, but plus an impeachment risk. I knew he was talking about Cuomo. The writing's on the wall. So Biden doesn't even want Cuomo because he's a serious impeachment risk. Washington knows this man is in deep trouble. The entire country knows this guy is in trouble. How come New York doesn't see it? Maybe we finally will. And Jerry's comment is great. Shame on you, New York. If you vote for this guy again, you deserve what you get. He's responsible for the deaths of thousands. He's absolutely 100% responsible. He made the call. He needs to answer to it now and accept responsibility. Yet he keeps blaming everybody but himself. Today, he couldn't blame Trump. Trump's gone. Who did he blame? God. He actually did. He blamed God. I'm going to play that clip in just a minute. So Karen says this cover up just screams corruption at the highest levels. I hope it will continue to be investigated and all those responsible from Cuomo on down are held accountable. The smug arrogance of Cuomo is especially hard not to be enraged over. He has sat there and lied to his state and country every day for months. Every day. Listen, it doesn't matter what side of the fence you sit on, Republican or Democrat. Listen, Dems, put your pride aside here. Your boy lied to you. And it's time to now move on. It's time to now get somebody else in control of New York State that can dig us out of the horrendous hole he's put us in. New York State is supposed to be one of the greatest states in the world. New York City is supposed to be our claim to fame. There's nobody in New York City right now. It's a ghost town because he has destroyed everything about it. He's destroyed small businesses. He's destroyed our education system. We've lost faith. And this man is 100% responsible. Bohill says liberals want senior citizens to die off. Because liberals can't change the senior's mind to the left. This is after he took his own mother out of a nursing home. He knew the numbers and protected his own mother. How many would have wanted to know and do the same thing for their parents? Cuomo took his mom out of a nursing home because he knew it was a very high-risk situation, yet continued to put people from the hospitals who had COVID into these nursing homes. If that doesn't scream insanity and fraud, then I don't know what it's going to take to get it through to you guys. Joy said, so sad for the families of these victims. He should be held accountable, especially for having the Javette Center and Navy ship at his disposal and failure to use it. But all of a sudden, he now wants government funding. He was so quick to dismiss the support that Trump gave him in the height of the pandemic last year. He was so quick to shrug off anything that Trump tried to do for New York. Wanted nothing to do with it. But now all of a sudden Trump's gone and Biden's in charge and he wants his bailout money. The whole thing is completely hypocritical and Cuomo deserves every ounce of attack, both media and legally, that he's about to get thrown at him. So let's go over to the press conference today. Okay, this is great. We're going to hear a lady, I would assume she's in New York. She asks a question. She asks Cuomo during the briefing, why is it so hard for you and your administration to answer questions regarding your actions? Let's have a listen.
Governor, your next question comes from Jennifer Lukey from WHEC. Jennifer, your line is now open. Please unmute your microphone.
Good afternoon, Governor. Your staff is often unapologetically aggressive when it comes to defending your policies, particularly on social media. But in this case, many of the people who disagree with how this whole situation was handled with the nursing homes have a very personal connection to it. They've lost someone in the pandemic tied to a nursing home. So the policy aside, who was right, who was wrong, just as a father, as a son, what would your message be to those families today?
What I would say is everyone did the best they could. When I say the State Department of Health, as the report said, the State Department of Health followed federal guidance. So if you think there was a mistake, then go talk to the federal government. It's not about pointing fingers or blame. It's that this became a political football, right? Look, whether a person died in a hospital or died in a nursing home, it's the people died. People died. I was in a hospital, I got transferred to a nursing home, and my father died. My father was in a nursing home, got transferred to a hospital, and my father died. People died. By the way, the same people are dying today. 96% of the people who die are older people with comorbidities, which happens to be the population that lives in nursing homes. It's continuing today, even with all the testing that we're doing. If you look at New York State, we have a lower percentage of deaths in nursing homes than other states. A third of all deaths in this nation are from nursing homes. New York State, we're only about 28% only, but we're below the national average in number of deaths in nursing homes. But who cares? 33, 28, died in a hospital, died in a nursing home. They died. And I dealt with the loss of my father. The pain is so incredible and inexplicable, and why. It's a tragedy. It's a tragedy. And I understand maybe the instinct to blame or to find some relief for the pain that you're feeling. But it is a tragedy, and it's a tragedy that continues today. I believe everybody did the best they could. I believe the federal government, CDC, I believe they gave the best guidance they could. I believe they give the best guidance they can today. I believe the State Department of Health, they gave their best guidance and made the best decisions on the facts they had. But it doesn't mean people didn't die, and it doesn't mean people won't die today, and people won't die tomorrow. And it doesn't mean that I'm not going to get up here tomorrow or Monday and read a death number on that screen and think about the 100 people who died and then the hundreds of family members who were home crying that day. And that's going to continue. That is the curse of COVID. Can you protect old people with comorbidities from COVID? Totally? No. No. If we could, it would be over. If it wasn't over last year, it would have been over by now, right? It's still not over. So I understand the pain. I understand that search for answers. But it was a tragedy, and I feel the anguish and I feel the pain. And I get the anger. My father died. I wish I had someone to blame. It would have made me feel better, maybe. But they're in my thoughts and prayers. I believe, why COVID? Why did God do this? I don't know. I don't know. But it was cruel and it was terrible, and it still is. Luckily, I'm blessed with faith, and that helped me at times of pain. But
anyway, we don't have to listen to this anymore. I don't even know what the hell he just rambled on about for 5 minutes there. All I heard was people die, get over it, people die. I mean, that's his answer now. This is Cuomo's answer to a lady who asked, let's remember what the original question was. The original question was, why do you and your staff find it so hard to answer questions and justify the mistakes when it comes to the nursing home that you made? And he just goes on and on about people dying. So everyone did their best. And all of a sudden, I love it. I love how all of a sudden everyone did their best. All I heard out of the guy over the last few months was blaming everybody for royally screwing up. Now all of a sudden everybody did their best. When Trump was the president, it was Trump this, Trump that, blame Trump for everybody. Well, I thought everybody did their best, Cuomo. So why did you spend the last year blaming everybody but you and your team? I also love how he just said, we followed federal guidelines. Oh, so now it's okay to follow federal guidelines. Where when Trump sent the hospital ship to New York City, why didn't you follow those federal guidelines or those federal recommendations? See, he only follows what he wants to follow and throws out everything else that hurts his self-image. So he just claimed, we followed the federal guidelines. Oh, it wasn't my fault. I was just doing what I was told. I didn't make the decision of throwing those people into nursing homes. You didn't? Are you sure? Because as far as I'm concerned, if we all remember, the New York State governor is responsible for New York State. He gets to make the call for New York State. When Trump wanted to send in the National Guard to take care of the Rochester, New York BLM riots, they said, no, we're in charge of this state. So I thought New York State was responsible and in charge of their own state. I thought they didn't have to answer to the federal government. Oh, but now all of a sudden they do. So there's double standards and complete hypocrisy throughout this entire thing. We have our politicians now stumbling over themselves, trying to point the finger and play the blame game. Well, I shouldn't say all politicians. We don't see DeSantis down in Florida having issues right now, do we? We don't see the governor in Texas having issues, do we? We don't see any of the Republican state governors trying to kick the can down the road, blaming people. No, they made a decision. They decided to stay open. Sadly, people died, nowhere near as much as how many people died here in New York State, but sadly, people did die from coronavirus, and they took responsibility. They're not playing the blame game in the red states. But we're watching now the left eat its own, trying to get out of the horrendous mistakes that they made. And it was all for what? Votes? He killed grandma and grandpa for votes. That's what it came down to. He thought he was making the right decision. He thought he was doing the right thing by getting the unions involved or egging them on at the very least to keep all these kids out of school. Now it's backfiring on them. Now, all of a sudden, in the height of the pandemic, he decides to open up restaurants at 25% capacity in New York City, dining in and limiting it to 25%. All of a sudden, the height of the pandemic, I thought everybody was dying left, right, and center here. And now on Valentine's Day, you're allowing indoor dining to open at 25% capacity? How does this make any sense? So Cuomo only makes decisions when he feels like his votes are in jeopardy. That's how this man makes decisions, and he always has. Hence the reason now he wants everybody to get back to work. Oh, I might not get my bailout money anymore. Everybody back to work. Hold on a second. Bailout or no bailout? I thought we were in the height of the scariest pandemic we've ever experienced in our lifetime. Who cares about the bailout? If we're in the height of the pandemic, we should all stay home, right? Bailout or no bailout? Oh, no. Get back to work, because if I don't get you guys back to work and I don't save New York City and New York State, I'm not going to get voted for again. So the whole thing has been about votes. From day one, it's been about votes with this guy. And you could just, he's so predictable. You could just kind of see the direction the anger goes, and he flips like a switch every single time he realizes he made the wrong decision. He's going to start to lose votes, and he's going to do a complete 180 to try to get it back. This man's going to flip a million more times throughout this pandemic. You just wait and watch. So people died. What kind of answer is that? Suddenly, it's okay. It's okay to die. Hey, listen, since Biden came out a week ago and made it very clear, listen, there's nothing we can do about coronavirus. There's nothing I can do to change the trajectory of the pandemic. Wait, what? Your entire race was just run on the fact that you were going to come in and change the trajectory of the pandemic. Remember, Trump doesn't know what he's doing. My team's going to come in. We're going to mask up for 100 days. We're going to get shots in arms, and we're going to kill this thing. What happened to that, Joe? Where's all that exciting ambition that we heard out of you? That basically the only thing we heard out of your mouth during your race from the basement. But now all of a sudden, you're the big man in charge, and, oh, well, you know, we just got to kind of hope for the best. So now, naturally, Governor Cuomo is following the same playbook. It's like the Democratic playbook from hell that these guys all continue to follow. It's like it's like how to destroy and bankrupt a country in 100 days. Follow the Democratic playbook. How to destroy a state in 1 year. Here's the Democratic playbook. They followed it. They reap what they sow. And now we're in serious trouble because of it. And I have zero faith in any of these Democratic governors, and even Biden now, to curb this pandemic. 1/3 of deaths are from nursing homes, so now it's okay that people die. Hey, let's forget, that's his answer. Well, 1/3 of all nationwide deaths are from nursing homes. Yeah. Obviously, Cuomo, the older people are the most susceptible to dying from COVID. Like, I didn't need Fauci or the data to tell me that 1/3 of the deaths will probably come from nursing homes. It doesn't make it acceptable. It doesn't justify that you made the wrong decision. You cannot use that as a way to get out of you making a decision that unnecessarily killed tens of thousands of elderly that we are now learning about. 50% more than what you originally reported. What did you have to hide? What were you so worried about? Remember, we've been over-reporting and inflating these numbers from day one, so the media can continue to fearmonger and get us all upset over it. But you, on this one little situation, decide to underreport? Not buying it. They knew the whole time it was fraudulent. They got busted. He now needs to face the music. He accuses, I believe her name was Jennifer, who just asked the question. He accuses her of trying to find, I know we're all trying to find someone to blame. No, we're not trying to find anybody to blame. We're straight up blaming you, Cuomo. That's the deal. We're not trying to find anybody to blame. And then he continues to go on and blame God. I blame God for COVID. What the hell? Is this man completely lost his mind that he now has to resort to blaming God? And what I also find laughable is the whole comorbidity issue. I've been talking about comorbidity and COVID forever now, saying, listen, guys, the amount of deaths is not really it was about 200,000 at the time. The amount of deaths in the United States isn't really 200,000. If you take out all the comorbidities, you're actually narrowing that number down by 94%. This is according to the CDC guidelines. True COVID deaths with no underlying conditions, no comorbidities attached to it, were only 4% of that 200,000 number. Only 4%. I did an entire live on it. It's on YouTube or Facebook, one of them. One of the platforms took it down, but it's up there somewhere on the real COVID numbers. But anyway, they said, nope, we can't play that game. Every death is important. Every death, comorbidity or not. Okay, but now you're just telling me, wait, you have to remember comorbidities play a big part of this. So now all of a sudden, comorbidities is an acceptable and justifiable way to go. When we've been telling the CDC, it makes no difference, or we can't excuse a death just because of comorbidities. We can't. What are you going to do? Tell the parents, tell the family, oh, well, it's acceptable because there was a comorbidity? Well, you told us no the whole time, but now all of a sudden you're telling me it's okay. So he just contradicted himself on every single answer outside of the whole people diarrhea for about 4 straight minutes. And anything that substantial that he actually did say contradicted everything this man has said in the past. Let's go to the Keyboard Warrior Cam and see what the American people have to say about his poor performance today and his hypocritical answers for every question that was thrown at him. Mark Mather says, here we go, Trump's fault. Surprise, surprise, he didn't have Trump to blame on this one. After we get through his 5 million other comments, he says he needs to be arrested for murder. Hope every family who lost a family member dues you for their death. Some sort of an investigation has to be held or thrown at Cuomo. He needs to be held accountable for something. And I'm glad that Elise Stefanik, Congresswoman in New York State, is now opening that investigation. Chris says full investigation. A full investigation with full transparency needs to be done. This man needs to be held accountable for his actions. Cheryl says instead of impeaching Trump, they should execute this guy for his lying about COVID deaths. I think execute's taken a bit too far. Nobody deserves the death penalty. We have to remember, Cuomo made some bad decisions. He did not intentionally mean to kill anyone. I will give him that. Let's give the guy credit where credit's due. Cuomo is not that much of a monster where he would intentionally premeditate and try to kill people. But he made horrible decisions. He was very negligent in what he did. And I do think he does deserve to have some sort of legal action be brought against him, either personally or against him either politically. A recall might need to be have. Something needs to be done. If this man even makes it to a 2022 election, there's something seriously wrong with the constituents in this state. Kathy says, you need to resign. Take responsibility for your stupidity. No one with a brain is buying your BS. It's sad. I hate to say it, Kathy, but sadly, there are a lot of people who are buying his BS. At least I hope up until now. I really hope the state or a lot of New Yorkers are going to really take this moment to reflect, are going to really sit back and think, let's think logically here for a second. Let's look at his accomplishments. Let's look at what he's actually done for New York State versus how he's handled this pandemic. And I hope they weigh out both sides of the story rather than being fed the load of BS that the left-wing local media continue to ram down their throats. I hope people start doing their own research for a change, because up until now, I don't think they have. And you better believe the nationwide media, Fox, Newsmax, OAN, maybe even MSN, and a couple others, everybody but CNN, because we know his brother works for CNN, and there's no way CNN's going to say a bad thing about Cuomo. But the right-wing media and your kind of moderate, neutral-based, true journalistic platforms are going to hang this man out to dry. They are going to throw everything at him. Pamela says, you lied from the beginning. Trump gave you all you needed and you put COVID in nursing homes. He did that. He made the decision. Even when they told you they weren't prepared for them. The nursing home said, we are not ready. We don't have the proper PPE. We don't have the facility, the infrastructure to handle all of these people. He literally sent them to their deathbeds. This is what happened. They said they weren't ready. Cuomo hoped for the best. It backfired. He got it wrong. And he still wrote a freaking book on pandemic leadership. I mean, how stupid does this man think we are? How did he get an Emmy? And it just goes to show who's really calling the shots here. Hollywood, liberal, as liberal as they get. They give him an Emmy. I mean, even Democrats know he did not deserve an Emmy. And if they could take it back, I'd like to think they would at this point. Alicia says, you need to go to prison for what you have done. You have blood on your hands, but I'm sure like everyone else in your party, you will get away with it. The law does not obtain to you. It's very sad that so many people feel that that is the case. We need to make an example out of these politicians. Something needs to be done. They cannot just get away with it. If anything, it was a political decision. He was acting on behalf of New York State. If anything, he needs to resign. Cuomo needs to either resign, or the state needs to get serious about a potential recall. If there's one man that wants Cuomo to answer for his actions, it's suddenly Mayor Bill de Blasio. New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio on Thursday called for the full truth, like he doesn't know the truth. Let's be honest, these guys have been like colluding together from day one. They've been backing each other up. And now all of a sudden, Mayor de Blasio is like, wait, what? Huh? What happened here? Hold on. I demand answers. So de Blasio on Thursday called for the full truth. I love how it's in quotes too. Fox News has even put full truth in quotes because they know how ridiculous it is. After a scathing Attorney General report that New York Governor Andrew Cuomo's administration undercounted COVID-related nursing home deaths by as much as 50%. So I just think it's so funny that de Blasio is now trying to kind of cover his own ass and say, what happened? Andrew, how could you? I mean, the whole thing's freaking ridiculous that he's now sitting here thinking or trying to play it off to everybody that he didn't know. I mean, look at these two. Their careers are over. Both of them need to be done. We need to vote in new people. I know Andrew Yang, Democratic presidential 2020 candidate, is now voting against de Blasio. It might do us some good having both of these guys replaced come re-election. So de Blasio calls for the full truth after a report of Cuomo administration undercounted COVID nursing home deaths. So the good news is we're not going to have to listen to de Blasio defend this man. He's going to go up against it. He's going to try to save his own ass because that's what they do when they all get busted and called out. Stephanie says, I believe they both knew. This is a great comment. I believe they both knew what was going on. They just got caught. Now, someone has to take the fall. Should be both. With the COVID numbers, summer riots and destruction, lockdown, and the increased crime numbers, I feel the residents. Not everyone voted for these two clowns. That's absolutely right. If de Blasio knew about this, they both need to go down. They are playing with our lives. They've made bad decisions. Kids are out of school. Businesses have been shut down. Lives and families have been destroyed. Elderly have been killed. The whole thing has been an absolute disaster. There's no disputing that, regardless of what party you are affiliated with. It's been an absolute disaster. Catastrophic disaster. Guys, if we don't get that $15 billion bailout, New York State is in serious trouble. Cuomo knows it. It will be the end of him. If this doesn't destroy him, Biden not giving New York State that $15 billion bailout absolutely will. Because that is when not only are small businesses and entrepreneurs' lives be ruined, but all the 9-to-5ers, which make up most of New York State, they're going down as well. And that's when things are going to get really, really bad. So we better hope, for all our sakes, that we get that bailout package from the federal government, which is going to send us into more national debt, raise taxes, and destroy America even further because of these governors' poor decisions. But for those of you who are in New York State, we got to look out for ourselves, right? We need the bailout. Sorry, rest of the country. Both seem to be in cohorts with each other, says Chrissy. Keep voting for these stunnids in, and this is what you get. Since we are talking about studs, I have a question. Do you know if either of them have solar panel on their homes? Just asking. It's true, though. Both of them seem to be in cahoots with each other, and we're about to find out. Everybody here, look, every single person here, Janice, they all think they're both guilty. They are both guilty, says Janice. Trump sent a ship and medical tents with medical personnel they wouldn't use. In the beginning of the virus, they told people to not listen to Trump and to go about their everyday lives. Then it really hit, and he covered the news with, "We need help here." Then sent sick people back to nursing homes and knew it. The whole thing was pathetic. The truth will set us free, says Lisa. The rats are starting to tell on each other. There we go. They're eating their own once again. It's funny how good the left are at that. They make horrible decisions, and when it's time to face the music, they all turn on each other. That's the left's way. That's the Democratic mentality. It's the Democratic playbook. The rats are starting to tell on each other. Now, if we can only convince our leaders, they must start prosecuting the corruption in our government. Lisa says, I really doubt the full truth will ever come out on this. The state is poorly run, has no money, and residents moving out of New York as fast as they can. Maybe another Emmy Award or book might help find the truth. The bottom line, at the end of the day, is that New York State has been so poorly managed. It's heavily Democratic run. And look, it doesn't work. All you got to do is compare how red states have been run by Republican management versus how blue states have been run. I don't even need to sell you on it. I don't even need to try to convince you guys. The fact of the matter is, the Democratic playbook is not working. States are going bankrupt. Children are out of school, losing out on a very much needed education. Businesses are being destroyed. Families are being ruined, torn apart, because we are being forced to listen to the politicians about decisions that I should be able to make as a mature, responsible adult. Decisions that I feel are best for my family. Our Democratic leadership have taken those rights away from us. Social media has taken those rights away from us. Our freedom of speech is in jeopardy. Our guns are next. They are destroying our states, and now they're about to destroy America. At some point, they need to face the music and accept responsibility for our actions. And by God, I hope the GOP steps up. I hope our Republic leadership starts to fight back aggressively. It needs to be more than just Ted Cruz. It needs to be more than just Elise Stefanik, Jim Jordan. They all need to step up and stop running the show for votes and start running the country as to what's best for the American people. Thank you guys so much for joining me today and for all week. You guys have a wonderful weekend. I always enjoy spending an hour with all of you. Thank you so much for all of your support. The show's growing. I love it. You guys are awesome. Leave comments, share it with your friends, get the word out. Let's bring down sneaky Cuomo and the rest of the Democrats and save New York State. Have a great weekend. We will see you Monday at 3 p.m. Have a good night.
Thanks for listening to You Made It Political with Matt Clark. Be sure to like, follow, or subscribe to the show, or leave us a review on iTunes. And if you like our show or want to know more, check out YouMadeItPolitical.com.